Imagine walking into a room where reality completely stops. In 1951, a series of covert experiments took place in a windowless basement at McGill University. Young, healthy students were placed in small, soundproof cubicles. They wore frosted goggles to block their vision, heavy cardboard cuffs to restrict their touch, and a continuous, unbroken hum of white noise played in their ears. They were paid a massive sum of money just to lie on a comfy bed and do absolutely nothing. The researchers expected the students to sleep, relax, and enjoy the rest. They were dead wrong. Within just a few hours, the participants began to panic. Stripped of external data, their brains started desperately manufacturing their own reality. Students began to hallucinate vividly, seeing complex geometric patterns, then rows of marching animals, then fully formed optical illusions dancing in the dark. By day 3, the majority of the students quit, refusing any amount of money to stay. Their internal sense of time was shattered, their logic was broken, and their identity had temporarily fractured. This experiment exposed a terrifying rule of human behavioral psychology. Your mind does not experience absolute silence as peace. It experiences silence as an existential threat. And when the world outside stops talking to you, your brain will start inventing monsters just to have something to look at. To understand why isolation completely breaks the human perspective, we have to look at a concept known as sensory hunger. Your brain is a highly complex prediction machine. Every single second of your life, it is processing millions of tiny ambient data points. The subtle hum of the air conditioner, the texture of the floor beneath your feet, the shifting light in a room, or the micro expressions on a stranger's face. Your mind uses this constant stream of information to anchor your ego to objective reality. When you remove that stream, the predictive coding system goes into overdrive. It begins to amplify its internal noise, turning its own gears until they smoke. If you are listening to this right now in a quiet room or staring at a screen in isolation, you are experiencing the modern digital equivalent of the McGill chamber. We are living in the echo chamber of the self. We spend hours isolated from real-world unpredictable friction, replacing physical sensory inputs with highly curated, predictable digital feeds. Before we look at how this sensory hunger rewrites your memories, take a moment to subscribe to the Quiet Theory. By joining this channel, you help build a community focused on understanding the deep, hidden frameworks of human behavior, free from the standard social media noise. Because when you spend too much time alone with your own uninterrupted feedback loop, your cognitive biases don't just guide your choices, they become your entire reality. You begin to overanalyze a minor social rejection, misinterpret a short text message, and turn a tiny internal anxiety into a massive, distorted catastrophe. When the brain enters chronic isolation, the third pillar of our mind crumbles: memory. Without new, real-world events to catalog, the mind becomes desperate for data. It turns inward and begins to mine your past. It drags up old arguments from 5 years ago, long-forgotten professional failures, and unresolved regrets. Because there is no external noise or real-world feedback to drown them out, these memories feel incredibly loud, vivid, and threatening. You enter a state of psychological looping. You begin to treat a decades-old mistake not as a past event, but as an active, ongoing crisis. Psychologists refer to this as a state of hyper-reflexivity, an obsessive, unnatural focus on one's own mental processes. In a loud room, a passing thought of failure lasts a second. In a dark room, that same passing thought becomes a courtroom trial where you are both the defendant and the hanging judge. This is where isolation triggers a quiet identity crisis. You stop defining yourself by what you do in the real world and start defining yourself entirely by the silent, anxious narratives running in the dark room of your own mind. You become a prisoner of a reality your brain manufactured purely because it was starving for stimulus. The cure for the dark room isn't trying to force your mind to think positive. The McGill experiments prove that raw intellect and logic cannot fix a brain starved of external reality. You cannot think your way out of a prison made of thoughts. The only way to break the loop is to introduce physical, uncurated friction. You must deliberately expose your mind to the unpredictable physical world. This means moving away from the safe, tightly controlled isolation of your room or your digital screen and forcing yourself into environments where you cannot control the incoming data. It means engaging in real conversations where people challenge your perspectives, taking on new technical learning curves that force you to fail and adapt, and allowing the messy, chaotic outside world to shatter your internal illusions. When you step into the world, your brain stops hallucinating anxieties because it is too busy processing actual reality. Friction cures the illusion. The quietest rooms often hold the loudest anxieties, but those anxieties are not objective truths. They are just the frantic hallucinations of a mind that has been left alone for too long. You do not need to figure out every single thought in your head before you step outside. You just need to open the door and let reality remind you of who you actually are. If this perspective brought some clarity to your silence tonight, click the subscribe button for the Quiet Theory. No noise, no performance, just the things we feel every day, but rarely say out loud. Turn off the simulation. The real world is waiting.